Hey, thanks for clicking on this video. If you clicked on this, it's probably because you played some games at your friend's house and you want to know, where do I start my collection at? This is the only video you need to watch to get your board game collection started. Let's take a look. Welcome back to 9 to 5 Gamers. My name is Jeremy and I love board games. As you can see behind me, I have a lot of shelves full. So these are just some recommendations that I have if you are just starting to get into the hobby. We call these gateway games. It's kind of weird saying that, but they're basically games that are going to get you into the board gaming hobby. So it's like, I know it can be confusing. Maybe you've gone to the store like a Walmart or a Target and saw a whole bunch of games and didn't know, hey, where do I get started? Some of those games out there can be kind of heavy, and by heavy I mean like they just are really difficult to get into. So I found the best board games that you can find. They're easy to find. Some of them you might need to go to a specialty store to get them, or you could probably get them on Amazon, honestly. And these are just the best games to get your collection started. So let's go ahead and get into it. Now, if you like these videos and you say, wow, this is really helpful, go ahead and give this video a like just to help me out. And also subscribe to the channel, because as you begin to collect more board games and play more games, you'll start to get some more recommendations and level up your playing experience. So with all that said, let's get into this video. All right, these are in like alphabetical order because that's just the way that it happened on my list. But I've got a bunch of games. Normally I do like top 10 videos where I do like my 10 best. I couldn't narrow this down to just 10, so there's actually more, but I'm gonna go through them really quick, rapid fire, so that way you can get into the store and get some of these games. All right, number one on my list is Azul. Azul is a set collection drafting game. These are the mechanisms that are in the game. Mechanisms are just kind of like the thing that drives the game forward, and it's kind of like what you'll be doing. The mechanisms are what you're doing during the game. So this one's all about like collecting different things, and Azul is just, they have like a million different versions of it, but if you just get the base version of this game, the original Azul, it's just these really cute, beautiful tiles that you're placing out in different patterns, and it can be a really mean game where you're playing with other people at the table trying to take tiles, and you take turns drafting them and taking them. So drafting is like everybody has like an option to choose, but one person takes and the next person takes, and then there's less for the next person. So it's a really cool game. All of these games, honestly, you can just go out and buy them, and guaranteed you will most likely have a good time with them, just because these are very highly rated games. They're very well loved and well received. They're award winning, some of them. And as like I'm telling you, like with Azul and a lot of these other games, you could just go out and buy these and be confident. Like you don't have to worry about, oh, what does it look like, all that stuff. Just trust me, all of these games are great and you will have a great time. I'm not the biggest fan of Azul, but I think it's because I just played it too much. But for people who are just starting out, man, this is one of my favorite games starting to get the hobby out with. So let's get into the next one. Number 2 is Baron Park. Baron Park is a really cool game by a guy named Phil Walker Harding. We always say praise be. I got that from another channel, and they've just made it well known, and we love Phil Walker Harding. He makes so many good games. Baron Park is a really cool tile placement game, but you are drafting in this game and you are just collecting different things, and you're building a little park for like bears basically, and you make these little bear exhibits. It's a polyomino game, so they have all these little pieces that are different shaped, and you're trying to fit them into your little grid and your grid gets bigger. So it's a really fun game. It's easy to learn and get into. I love Baron Park. Number 3, Caesar's Empire. This is a really cool route building game where you just have like a big map, and Rome is at the center, and you're just trying to build paths out from Rome, and then you get points for every single person on the path of that route. And it's just really cool. It's got some set collection in there where you're collecting these little pieces, and the more of the same type you have, the more points you get, and then you also get more if you have different types. Really easy, really fun. You can literally learn how to play this game, and like I think you can learn it yourself in like maybe 10 minutes or so by reading the directions or less, but teaching it takes even less time. So I really love Caesar's Empire. Great game. Next up on my list is Carcassone. Carcassone is a kind of like area majority tile placement pattern game, and basically every turn you're placing these little tiles on the table, and you're trying to group certain tile patterns together and put your little wooden people on there. We call those meeples. You're putting those onto each point, and whoever has area majority scores points from those different things. You get points for the paths you build and stuff like that. It's really, really fun. It's a classic game, and the great thing that I love about most of these games is that all of these games have expansions. So once you get kind of tired of the base game, you can go out, pick up an expansion, and it adds to the fun of the game, and so you can continue to expand and build on the game you've already played. Carcassone, amazing. It's an award-winning game for a reason. Next one on my list is Castle Panic, and Castle Panic, you can find this at Target, the new version of it. This is a cooperative game, which is really cool because that's a lot of new for a lot of people. This is a new term where you're playing together. Most board games, you're kind of like trying to hurt each other and trying to figure out, hey, who's going to win, who's in the lead, how do I get more points, how do I beat you? This one you actually work together, and you've got a little castle in the center of the map. Trolls are coming in to try to fight and destroy your castle, and you are playing cards from your hand, and you're using a little bit of hand management and using your cards, trading with other players to try to extinguish the enemies that are coming after your castle. Super great game. Castle Panic is cheap, easy to play. It's a fun cooperative game to get you used to some of the co-op games that are out there. Love Castle Panic. Next one is Katan. Katan is a classic. It was made in 1995, and Cosmo, I guess, just picked up the rights to the game, and they are making what looks to be maybe a smaller version of the game, maybe cheaper, but it's better produced, I think. I'm not 100% sure. It hasn't come out yet, but they're celebrating their 30th anniversary. But Katan is really cool. Route building game. Again, it's got a whole bunch of hexagon-like tiles, and you're building these little roads and building settlements and cities and gaining resources, and then you're managing those resource cards in your hand. You can trade with other players. You can rip each other off and be like, well, I'll give you a sheep, but you got to give me 2 wood and this and that, and you're just trying to get control of certain areas so you can kind of take all of the resources in. Really, really fun game. It's like first to 10 points. It's kind of got like a little bit of a racing mechanic. First person to get to 10 points wins. Great game. Katan is a classic for a reason, and there's a ton of expansions for it. You can get it at Target, Walmart, pretty much anywhere. Next up is Codenames. Codenames, I'm not sure if you can get this one at Target anymore or if you could get it there to begin with. But if you like to play with a big group of people, this game I think accommodates maybe up to 8 people. But if you are playing with just 2 people, which I'm going to do a list on that completely separate. So if you're like, it's just me and my spouse, significant other that roommate that I live with, and it's just 2 of y'all, Codenames Duet is the one to go for because that's a cooperative version, which is different than the other one, which is regular Codenames is competitive, but just a bunch of word games. It's all about memory. It has a team-based game. You can play together like a 4v4, limited communication, and you're just giving out clues to try to guess which words are the spies, and you're trying to get them. Like, you'll take 3 or 4 words that are out there and say, how can I come up with a clue that'll make them guess all of these? And so you'll say like spy 4, and then they'll pick like 4 of the tiles that have to do with spy, and if they pick wrong, the turn ends there. So really fun game. It's a classic. Next is Dixit. Dixit is a really great game. It is got storytelling, voting, and what is this? Oh, like clue giving. And so like the basic gist of this game is that you're going to choose like a word, and then you're going to put out, everybody's going to pick a card that they think fits that word, and the cards all have like really unique artwork on them, and everybody picks a card, and then you try to vote on who you think picked which card you think the storyteller of that turn picked. It's a really, really fun game. It's easy to play, super simple, and it's just really fun to like play games with like the clue giving and the different cards that you get. I love Dixit. It's classic, and there's expansions, and you can find it pretty much anywhere. They do have a Disney Dixit, so if you're a big Disney fan, it's all unique Disney artwork that was made specifically for this game. It's beautiful. Next up is a little game that's a little harder to find. It actually just came out recently. I know a lot of people are trying to get their hands on it, but it's a game called Harmonies. Harmonies is such a beautifully produced game. It's under, I think it's like maybe $35, so it's like under $40. And man, I get endless play from this game. I've been just playing this game so much this year, and it's just like a little game where you have a habitat, and you're filling it with these little discs that you draft, which we talked about earlier, and you're drafting these little discs, and then after that, you are arranging these discs on your map to fit certain patterns on different cards. And so you take the card that matches the patterns that you're building, and then after that you can put little animal cubes inside of your habitats, and whoever has the most points wins, and you get points for all sorts of things. It's super, super fun. It's got drafting, it's got pattern building, it's got tile laying. It's great. I love Harmonies. and I highly recommend it. Next one on my list is King of Tokyo. King of Tokyo is an amazing dice game. It's King of the Hill style, where somebody is going into the city of Tokyo. You all playing a monster. You roll 6 die, and then you're allowed two re-rolls, and so you can re-roll any dice that you want. If you can match up getting the same numbers, like if there's numbers 1, 2, and 3, if you can get 3 threes in a row, you'll get 3 points. And the goal is to get to 20 points. Or you can go the other route, where you roll the little hand icons, and then those let you damage the other players. And your goal is to just either get to 20 points or destroy your opponents, and it's super fun. You can play with up to 6 people. They have expansions for this game. There's just so much in here that I love King of Tokyo. So many different versions of it. Just get the regular base version. It's great, and that is King of Tokyo. This would be, what, 11? Is Lords of Waterdeep. Lords of Waterdeep, probably not the best looking game. You're probably going to see a picture of it coming up and go, I'm good. I don't know if I like this one. This one's great, and the reason why is because it's going to teach you a mechanism called worker placement. And worker placement is just basically you take these little, you get a couple of these little peoples, they're called meeples, and you take them and you place them on certain spots to get certain rewards. Lords of Waterdeep is the easiest worker placement that exists. Once you learn how to play this, there's so many more worker placement games that you can play after that are so good. And learning through Lords of Waterdeep is probably the best place to learn how to play this type of game. But again, it's worker placement. It's got a little take that in there where you're hurting the other people. It's got contract fulfillment where it's like, hey, you need 6 orange cubes to complete this contract. So you're just going to different spaces trying to get 6 orange cubes, and it's super simple. It's very easy. The theme's a little interesting. It's like Dungeons and Dragons themed, but it's really fun. Lords of Waterdeep is amazing. That's a great game to get you started. Next up is a game called Middle Ages. This is also a new game. Might not be the easiest to find, but this is drafting and set collection, and it's just a beautifully produced game. I've been wanting to play this so much this year since it just came out, and basically you have a little fiefdom. It's this little board, and you're just filling it up with different tiles from different what do you call those things, different tiles for different areas on your board, and each one is going to give you points in some different way. This game is a little more challenging, but it's just really fun. There's a lot of games that if you want to try something like it, but you can't find Middle Ages, try King Domino, or another good one would probably be, I think King Domino would probably be the best option, but it's similar. But I really like Middle Ages. A little bit more in-depth. It's really good, though. The next one's Pandemic. This is another great co-op game, and in this game, you are basically have a hand of cards, and you're trying to manage them. Each card is like a different city on the board. You got the world map in front of you, and there are diseases breaking out all over the map, and you're just trying to get rid of these diseases by getting the cubes off of the map. It is super fun. You trade, and it introduces another mechanism called asymmetry, which is basically, and it's not really necessarily a mechanism, but what it does is everybody has a unique power that contributes to this cooperative experience. So it's like, I do this and only I can do this. So I'm going to do this and only I can do this. It's my unique power, and it sets me apart from everybody else in the game. There's a lot of really great asymmetric games out there, and this game will get you closer to trying out one of those. It's got action selection where you've got a few action points and you can spend them on doing different types of actions. So there's a lot of cool mechanisms you can learn through playing this one. Next game is a game called Planted. You can get this at Target. It's super easy, cheap and easy to play. It's got drafting in it. It's got set collection as well. I think a lot of the games for new beginners are drafting set collection games, but it's got a little bit of hand management and simultaneous play. I love that because everybody plays at the same time, and then everybody passes, and then you all play at the same time again. So I like games where it does that because it makes the game go by quicker and everybody's entertained. You're not going to have people that are on their phones while you're taking your turn and stuff like that. Planted is great. You're just basically planting a bunch of different plants inside of your little tableau, and your tableau is just a little area in front of you, and you are just watering plants, helping them to grow, and the more you water them, the more points you get from them. Super fun, and it's well produced. The pieces on this thing are beautiful, and all of this for, I think at Target, you can get the game for like 20 to 30 bucks. It's super cheap, and it's made by Phil Walker Harding, praise be. Now, next up is a game called Space Base. Space Base is a little harder to find. You're not going to find this at like Walmart or Target, I don't think. But this is a really cool outer space drafting engine building game. Engine builders are games where you place these like cards out, and these cards will produce resources for you every round. And so in this one, you're rolling dice, and you have a bunch of like space stations on your little space port that you have in front of you, and each one, if you roll that number, you get all of the rewards that are listed on that particular space thing. And then the cool thing is, though, that as you begin to add more and more to your board, when other people roll on their turns and it's their turn to roll the dice, you can still get benefits if they roll any of the numbers that you have at the top of your board. Really, really fun dice game. It's so much fun to play and try to race to see who can get to the 40 victory points or whatever it is that you need to win. Space Base is great. I really love it. I give this game a 10 out of 10. I love playing it, and I love it forever. And it's a cool engine builder where you're getting different little engines to fire off when you roll certain dice numbers. Another great engine builder is a game called Splendor. Splendor, you can get this at Target, and they have a lot of different versions of this. So like if you have a particular like IP or theme that you like, they have a Pokemon version, which is a little harder to get because it's like a Korean thing, and like they only came out in Korea, but you can get it from Korea on eBay for like $40, I think, and then $40 plus shipping. And then after you get it, you can look up the English directions like online. But there is a Pokemon version of this game. There's also a Marvel version of this game. There's a version of this game that's only for 2 people. So if you are playing with just you and a partner, there's a Splendor for that. But it's just, again, another engine builder where you're drafting cards. You pay for them with, like, you're taking poker chips. You use those poker chips to buy cards. Those cards provide resources to buy other cards, and so the more of those cards you build up, then cards start to become free, and you're all just doing this to impress some stone guys that collect rocks or diamonds or whatever. The regular version of this game is fine. I like it, but I really like the Marvel version and I like the Pokemon version because they have cool little mechanics inside of it that are different. But Splendor is great. Next one is a game called Survive the Island. This is probably the meanest game you'll have. So if you like games where everybody's going to start yelling at each other and getting angry at each other, this is the perfect game for you. This has a lot of Take That, and that is a mechanism, believe it or not. But Take That is basically like games that are just like, my goal is to mess with you. So you got action points that you can spend on your turn, and basically there's this big island, and you're just trying to get your people off the island to the corners of the map. And if you do that, each little person that you get to escape from the island or to survive the island has a point value printed on the bottom of them, and that's how many points you get at the end of the game. Your goal is to get as many of your people to the islands as possible, but there are monsters that eat people, and you actually control those. So you can actually roll a dice and then use a monster to move and then eat, your opponents and stuff like that. And so it's just basically destruction for, a good 30 minutes. Really fun, not a super long game, but it's very, very fun. Survive the Island. And they just came out with a new version of it, and you can get it at Target. It's really fun, and it's super cheap. Quacks of Quedlinburg. This is a great bag building game. This is a game where you're going to have a bag full of like chips to start off with, and you're going to buy new chips to put in your bag, and then you're putting these ingredients into a potion on the table in front of you. And the more chips you are able to put out onto the potion, the more points you'll get, victory points, and money to spend on buying new chips. The only problem is that if you pull out too many of these little white chips that you get at the beginning, and you can end up exploding your potion, and then you end up missing out on either the points or the money for that turn. So it's just a bag builder where you're getting new chips, adding them to the bag. You draw into the bag and pull out a random chip and then place it. And so it's push your luck. It's got a lot of fun mechanisms. Simultaneous play. Everybody's playing at the same time unless you don't trust each other, which I totally understand that people cheat sometimes. But it's a really fun game. You should get a copy of that. Next game on my list is Quest for El Dorado. This is a deck builder. So we talked about bag building. You got a bag of chips and you put chips, buy chips to put in there. This one you start off with a deck of cards and then you buy cards to put into your deck. This is called deck building. There's a lot of really good deck builders out there, and this is a great intro into that. This one's got a lot though. This one's got deck building. This one has a racing mechanic, hand management, and basically you just start off at one end of the board and you're trying to work your way to the other end by playing cards from your hand. So if there are forest spaces, then you can play a forest card to move through the forest. If you play a sand space, you can move through the sand spaces, and water to move through the water spaces. But you're trying to buy enough cards so that you can make it further and further on the quest for El Dorado all the way to the other side of the map. This is by far one of my favorite games because it is deck building and racing at the same time, which I just think makes a really good combination, and it teaches you two mechanics at the same time, and some of that hand management is really, really interesting and fun. Next on my list, and it's the final one, that is Ticket to Ride. I would say try to get an anniversary edition of this game just because of how well they're produced, but honestly, basic Ticket to Ride, you can have so much fun with that. There's tons of expansions for this game, and expansions, but new versions versions of the game. I don't even know if I would call them expansions. There might be expansions, but my favorite is Ticket to Ride Europe because it fixes some of the issues that you have in the first Ticket to Ride, which they're not really issues. Some people enjoy it because like you're just building, this is a route building game where you have a big map and you're putting trains out and you're trying to build routes that are on these little cards. So it's like, hey, you need to build a route from Texas to Florida. So then you're trying to build that route. But if somebody cuts you off, then you can no longer try to build that route, or you have to try to go above them and go around them. So it's just building routes and getting points every time you build routes. But with Europe, it's really cool because you can actually, it's a little less mean because you can actually not cut each other off. You can use these little bases to like use people's routes, which is really, really fun. I love Ticket to Ride. It's a fantastic train game. It doesn't look like it would be, but like I said, for every game on this list, whether you think these games look nice or not, some of them are really old. I mean, from like the 90s. That sounds bad. Sorry, I don't mean to offend anybody. I was born in like the 80s, so but some of these games are around since the 90s. They're not the best looking games, but they get new versions and new versions of the game to play, and Ticket to Ride is just one of those games that's always good no matter how many times you've played it. So I love all these games on this list. I vouch for every game on this list. Every game on this list I would play. I think the only one that I've grown tired of is Azul, and even that there's new versions of it that I haven't played that I would gladly play anytime. You cannot go wrong with any game on this list, so check out a few of them. Buy like maybe 2 or 3 from this list, any that you can find, and try them out. All of them, like I said, are building on different mechanisms. Some of them had the same mechanisms. There's going to always be a lot of drafting and set collection games, but that's pretty much it. So thank you guys for tuning in, and as always, appreciate you guys. Thanks for checking out our top 20 gateway games. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this list. If you did, subscribe to the channel to get some more lists, and hopefully this wasn't too long. Take care. See you guys later. Peace out.